if I'm doing something, I'm all in. So if we got to go to 8 o'clock, I got my humidor right here. I quit drinking, but
There you go.
I got a nice wine rack right here, man. I'll have to have you over sometime.
Someone's got to drink that wine if you're not going to do it.
Come on, man. I got some vintage Austin Ho.
Nice.
So we got some stuff going on.
Why'd you quit? Trying to lose weight? Are you trying to clean up the health? Or what's the thought?
You know what? It's a little bit of everything for me. It's got to be something big for me. My focus is different right now. I'm loosening up in different ways. Like I'm loose. My reputation is good. My brand that I support is good. The team here is good. I'm proud of everyone. Like I'm already loose. I'm already loose.
So you don't need the alcohol.
Yeah, life's pretty good, and that's a first for me. I typically I'm not a dancer or anything when I go out. So like, if I want to get a little jiggy, I of course have got to have a couple drinks.
Right.
But now I'm like, whatever. Like
I'm surprised, dude. I figured you'd be the first guy to slide his ass across the floor. You seem like you got a lot of charisma. You got your own unique sense of style and snap.
Listen, everybody doesn't get that for free though, and they get it for free when I drink, and it actually costs me money because I like buying drinks too.
Ah, yeah. So you're buying around.
Yeah.
You should have seen me after the rooftop bar.
Yeah. What happened? You went wild?
Did you?
Oh man,
I did. I went with the pipeline guys, and I started dancing on the dance floor.
Oh, that's friggin' awesome! I'm sorry I missed that. Everybody started sliding out of that place, and I had my wife and a couple of our friends. We were on the dance floor we went to one place with you guys, and then we were down dancing on the floor. I was down there dancing. And then I turned around and everybody had slid out and went in a different direction. So we just broke away from the crowd accidentally. But I have this is some of the funny stuff. And I don't want to name names, but man, doing these, traveling and doing all these conferences in the gutter space, I guess it doesn't matter what space you're in, but gutter has been hilarious. I don't want to say dirt because it's not dirt, but I have hilarious stories on some of these guys that we all rub elbows with and strange things happen at 10 at night, you see the other side of them. I mean, people kind of take little dirt naps on their chairs and wild dance sessions, a couple makeouts maybe. I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff.
Oh, man. Okay.
Awesome. I love it. Anyway, I'm so excited to have you guys back on. It's, this is the beautiful thing with work where, there's part of the day where you're grinding and you feel like you're in the trenches, but this is fun. Let's be honest. This is fun, but it's still business, right? We're building relationships with each other and we're bonding and we're doing all of these relationshipy things, but we're building business concepts together, and it's amazing and it's fun and it's refreshing and it recharges the battery because it's not the same old. So thank you guys for being who you are and, being open-minded and sharing. And I really like the direction all this stuff is going. So thanks for taking the time out today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're in different time zones. Tim's in my time zone. Grant, you're an hour behind us, right?
Yeah.
Tell the folks listening where you're at. A lot of guys know where you're at, but where are you at? What's the temperature outside? What's going on today?
Yeah, here it's a little after 3 o'clock. It's probably real temperature somewhere around 108 degrees, and I'm in Austin, Texas.
108. And we were talking the other day, you and I, and you said it was like 80 some odd days in a row of no rain. You haven't had rain. And
yeah, so I just did a little post on it. It was, I think, 71 days yesterday of over 100 degrees. So I want to say today's the 72nd or 73rd day over 100.
It's unbelievable.
And it's been a long time since we've got rain.
And yet you guys are selling gutters like crazy, right? You don't need rain to sell gutters. Who needs rain for gutters?
Yeah, you really don't need the rain to sell gutters. It helps, right, to get a little closer to your dreams.
Oh, for sure. I do rain dances. I'm a rain guy. I love rain.
It's raining right now where I'm at.
I have, it's serendipitous. When I was a kid, it always rained on my birthday. My birthday is October 3rd, and October is the rainiest month in the year in Connecticut anyway. And so my mother and I had this thing when I was a kid, like, oh, another birthday, raining. Like I'd have kid parties and like all the kids are soaking wet. We're going to the bowling alley. And I'm like, Ma, why it always rains on my birthday. So that was
for gutters.
yeah. So now it's like, if it's a beautiful day, I'm happy. If it's raining, I'm even happier, you know? But brothers that just do gutters, man, your brand is strong. You guys are killing it. I feel, maybe it's because I'm so dialed in on my numbers and the pulse. Not that you're not, but I know for us, when it's dry, when we go 3-4 weeks without rain, I feel it. My office staff's like, phones are a little slow. We're definitely driven by rain. So hats off if you guys are still killing it despite the dryness.
Yeah, and let me be, in all fairness, right? It's about the relationships that we've built. Trust me, we're feeling no rain for 100 days. We feel it when it doesn't rain for a couple weeks.
All right, well, you're making me feel a little bit more normal then, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah. We're still killing it. We're having our ups and downs, but we're not reactionary to it, right? This is all built into the plan, at least at our branch, and I know as well as a lot of others. We plan for this situation.
Sure.
And planning, takes care of a lot of situations that you can run into.
Sure, absolutely. Timmy, what are you up to, man? I saw you a couple weeks ago in Nashville. I had a lot of fun with you.
Yeah, we had a good time. Right now I'm launching a Christmas lights business, so in the middle of that.
Yeah, love it. Grant, you want to hear more about that too, right?
I do absolutely want to hear about the Griswold lights.
Yeah.
I mean, the best name ever.
Griswold's is the name. Griswold's Christmas lights. So
such an
it seems like a really fun business. I like it because I could get my feet, a little wet into doing some production again. But it's short-lived, so it's 3 months. So I don't have to do it all year round. So I'm kind of happy about that.
That's strategic. I like that.
Yeah. And then it seems like a lot of gutter guys maybe look into it because it's good for the winter. A lot of these guys up north, they slow down. It could be a good business to go into. You can cross-reference your customer base. Yeah. And,
so let's talk about that. I mean, I want your perspective on that. For me, I looked at lighting at one point, actually a few times. I could go back to the well and I think about it, and I never pull the trigger. And my reason is, and maybe it's because I'm in New England. I mean, we have true 4 seasons, right? But in the fall, we're slammed with the leaves dropping off the trees, and it's like a mad race on the installs because we know cold weather's coming and icing and freezing, and then we're also totally overwhelmed trying to race to get to all of our recurring gutter cleaning clients.
Yeah, that makes
so
sense.
I'm like, how the hell am I going to pull this off? And then the pressure of gutter cleanings alone, where you didn't get to me before the first snow, or I got ice in the gutter, and people flip out over a $300 gutter cleaning. Half the time I'm like, man, is it even worth it? But then like the thought of, on top of that, chasing the holiday dates and the deadlines and people's mental place of where they need to be on when these lights need to go on, whatever it is, the day after Halloween or whatever. What's your take on that? I mean, is this something that you're looking at for your own territory, or do you have a national sense of how guys combat that? My problem I have anyway.
What I'm starting to kind of notice, because a lot of the guys in like the pressure washing and the gutter cleaning space, especially more so than the insulation, are getting more into it. A lot of these guys are cutting off cleanings completely for 3 months.
Wow.
Because they're making, they just won't do it. So they schedule everyone before then if they got reoccurring cleanouts, and they're just not going to get done in those 3 months. So they kind of schedule accordingly. And the reason why is the lights business is much more profitable.
Okay.
So they'd rather get in as much profit as they can in that 3 months, forget about gutter cleaning, pick back up with a full schedule as soon as the season's over. That's what a lot of them are doing.
What are the numbers? I mean, I don't need to know exact, but like, let's say, I mean, our business is sort of an outlier, but nationally, I'd say your average gutter ticket is like, on average, maybe 2,500, right? With like 55% margins or something like that. What is the take on lighting? Is it like, do you have to do high volume to make the numbers, or is it like every job is juicy? Every job.
Yeah. The average ticket would be about 2,500. So I would say the low end, maybe 1,500, maybe high end, 8,000.
Wow.
But the average ticket's about $2,500.
It's all labor. I mean, well, labor and profit, right? I mean, there's no
The first year you got to invest in the lights because you're leasing them, so you own the lights. You don't give the lights to the customer. So the first year you got all the expense. You're probably looking at like 30% margins. From that year all the way to the 5th, the 7th year, or however long you can get lifespan out of the lights, they say 5, but
Right.
I've heard guys say 7. So that whole time you got 80% margins because you don't have to buy those lights again.
Right.
You put it up in a certain way so it's stored nice, and you come back next year with the same lights and a little plan, so that way you know where to put everything. So you just keep it all organized.
Is the longevity of the lights based off of the caretake of them, or is that just kind of built into the wiring and the bulb?
If you left the lights up all year round, you might get 2 years out of it.
Okay.
So they have to be taken down and stored. It's not 5 years running. It's just.
So are you hiring NASA engineers to install these things, or are you just trying to leverage like gutter installers and gutter
I
cleaning?
went and took a Clippa course, and I feel like I learned quite a bit from it. And if you could do gutter installs, you could do light installs.
So I know you to be like an all-in type of guy, and that's what I love about you. You going all in on this? Like, how hard are you going on this?
I got every single marketing avenue that you could do. I'm full blast. And basically I bought 2 rigs. I'm trying to run 2 trucks right off the bat. A lot of the guys get in here and they try to do, 50, 100,000 their first year. I'm trying to do 500,000.
Wow, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So I saw the trailers on Facebook. You're installing out of the trailers. You basically load up bins in there. Is that the strategy? And then run around with the trailers and get them up, hang them, get them hung?
Yep. I'm going to have nice wraps around them to draw attention. I'm going to have music, awesome. Christmas music playing when we're doing the jobs. I have a cardboard Clark Griswold that we'll pull out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun with it.
Grant, you guys do lighting at all? Like, how close are you to that kind of game?
I would say,
because you guys are you're experimental. I know you guys are always looking for new avenues.
Yeah, I can't speak for Kip, right? And so I'm here to support Kip as far as the brothers and whatever he wants to do. And I have full faith in anything that he wants to take on, I'll be a part of. We have spoke about the lights, and I think we're going to pass on the lights at this moment. And I've spoken with him about, me and Tim have been talking, and he's been telling me a little bit more about what he's doing. And so I'm interested in watching that and seeing what could happen.
So what's interesting? It's like I'm taking the pass too, and only because of the seasonality, only because I doubt that I could make hay so fast. But you know what, Tim? Like, someone's got to do it, right? It's got to get done. So like,
get done.
Kill it, do it, get it.
Tim's the perfect person for it. I think this is his season. I love what he's doing and everything he's doing as far as what I could see online, right?
Right.
And I know he's a good person as well. So many blessings to you, man, with all the stuff that you have coming up. I know you're going to crush it in the lights. I know your territory. We used to be essentially neighbors when I was a Florida gutter dog, and you're just going to crush it. I know 100%. So
Grant should be a pastor. If he wasn't in the gutter game, he'd have his own like church. Did we lose Timmy? I think we lost Timmy.
I've been hearing that a lot, man, lately.
Now you're a well-spoken guy, and you're a love. Like that's half the thing. Like when you start to get to a place of knowing who you are, right, and you've been in business for X amount of time, it's beyond us, right? It's all love. It's one big sandbox. We all get to play together. There he is.
There we go.
So we were just talking about you when you faded out and disappeared.
Yeah,
we're getting the storm over here.
So what else? Yeah. Let's talk about Nashville. I mean, we had fun. I did a lot of business in Nashville. I got a lot of deals done there, B2B. So it was phenomenal. But we got a couple things cooking too, Tim. Right? We started. Grant. Look, I'm just gonna lay it out here for you, and Tim, please don't mind me. And I'm gonna put it out there, and then I'm gonna shut up. And you could pick up where I leave off, Tim. And Grant, I I make no apologies for what I'm going to say, but I know Tim and I have been talking about. It's something I've already gotten into. He's doing it now, but we want to join forces and synergize and really bring to life a training, a training program in person, multiple times a year. We'll have 2 or 3 or maybe quarterly if we're real aggressive.
I like quarterly, but at least 3.
Okay, fly companies in, fly teams in, fly independents in. It depends on how we want to chop it up.
What are you training? Christmas lights?
Yeah, we're gonna do Christmas lights. Rain gutters, man. Rain gutters. Installation.
Lighters, copper,
all the tough stuff. Everything. The big 800-pound gorilla in the corner of the room. The stuff that everybody's scared of. Soldering, hand cut miters. I mean, you name it.
Downhills.
Sky's the limit. Sky's the limit.
Install side, not business management.
Correct.
So Grant, Tim and I are already talking about this, and I'm an all-in guy. Tim's an all-in guy. When I commit myself to something, I go hard. How about you join us, Grant, and take all your wisdom and wherewithal and join us and come fly in or wherever we decide to do this and do it 3 or 4 times a year. Tim, I'm speaking for you, but please correct me. I would be blessed. We would be blessed to have him join the ranks. Grant, well, Tim, do you agree with me?
That would be awesome. I mean, if something like that could happen, I don't know if it can, but if it could,
anything is possible in this world.
You never know in the gutter world.
I'm a little speechless. I appreciate that. Yeah, first and foremost, thank you. I mean, I was just going to ask you, what you guys are doing outside of your businesses, and it sounds like you're in cahoots with something that the industry badly needs, right? Badly needs. I talk about this often within my brand, and I have a lot of friends in the gutter business outside of our network, right? The Brothers Network. And we talk all the time about engineers, just like you want to be good at lighting, right? You got to go take a course. Obviously, the brothers have some courses and some well laid out stuff. But the industry needs what you guys have to offer very, very bad. I don't take your offer lightly. Would absolutely be something that I would have to approach with my team and see how we can navigate that.
There's a lot of guys out there that have come in here, actually. They've flown into Connecticut and have had hands-on training at our product, Gutter School. And I'll tell you what, it's exhausting. It's exhaustive for me and my staff. And it's tough. I want people to leave with like, wow, like the mind's blown. Yeah. And so, it's something I can't do alone. I need some awesome teammates, and the stuff I could lend to the audience is completely different from what you guys can. I just think we could smash it, and I think it would be a wild success, and we'd have a lot of fun too. I mean, I look at the big picture, like being social after hours, like get in and work hard, let everybody go home and wash up at the end of the day, and then let's go out to a bar or restaurant and have some fun and have some laughs, and that's what the industry's all about. It's a small world.
Let me touch on this topic for a minute, because although I'm highly involved in my own network, again, because of my social life and my gutter following, having worked in 40 different states, worked for a lot of companies, already been a part of a national training team prior to the brothers, something I was doing for monetary purposes, as well as just being a good person prior to the brand. It's something I've been thinking about a long time myself. And I think if us 3 could find a way, whether we involve other people or we don't, I think that it would be absolutely fabulous for the gutter industry and the small guy, the owner operator that wants to just really understand what he's doing differently from some of us that have learned how to teach professional high volume gutter installation.
Well, I'll tell you, you guys know Lifetime Gutter, right? I have a partner with that, and the site, because I have a strong SEO background, that site gets a lot of traffic, and a lot of the traffic is for training. I get guys the guys that we don't see on Facebook, guys that we don't know otherwise, that just hit on that site and they call and they're like, need to get trained. Yeah. What we need to focus on is I mean, it's interesting talking about lighting, because what we need to focus on, and you don't really realize this until you put those glasses on and look at it in this perspective. There's a lot of guys doing other things. Like Tim and I were just in Nashville. That was a heavy. The huge convention is all power washing and soft wash. There's a lot of guys doing other things. They could be in lighting and only lighting, and then they decide they want to get into gutter. So there's this big influx of folks that have some sort of skill set in other realms. Could be carpentry, painting, roofing, and now they want to cross over and incorporate gutter into their game. I want to cater to them too, and I want to make them a big part of what we do. So
You're saying in the training facet?
Yeah, in the training and how we attract folks.
Because a lot of these guys, they want to get into the gutter business. I don't know how many guys have hit me up. They're like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I want to get into gutters. I mean, I've seen roofers want to get into gutters, pressure washing guys, especially gutter cleaning guys. But a lot of them don't have that experience for installation.
Right.
And if somebody showed them the way.
Yeah, I mean, there's a mentorship factor, right? Like,
yeah,
even the little things like how to calculate coil yield, or where to go for a trusted machine, or how to load it. The silly questions you don't even want to ask, because you're like, I'm totally green. I don't even know what I'm doing. How do I take care of that?
100%. Hey, let me go ahead and pitch my brand real quick, brothers.
Yeah, please.
Gutters.
Yeah, do it.
I want to hear more about your background too, Grant.
Yeah, obviously, with everything that you guys are talking about, I just want to be able to say here in a public format that if you're an investor or you're somebody that maybe doesn't have access to one of you two guys or some of the other elites that are out there, give us a call. Frank, I think you know a little bit about the numbers. You've said it before. Of course, you have to pay the franchise, but you get a lot with that. And you know what those numbers are, I believe, or what they closely are.
Yeah, I mean, I've studied the franchise model in other realms too. But yeah, I know the buy-in.
Yeah, and so like regardless of the buy-in or the percentage fees, right, that whether you do it with or without the brand, you're going to have a lot of fees, right? And so if I'm on this format and I'm wearing these clothes and this is the company that I work for, I'd want to say if anybody's interested in getting into something that is already pre-set for you, plug and play,
you guys have been extremely successful. I remember when you guys first came out, it seemed like I heard you had like 50 locations. Now all of a sudden it's 170. It just
you guys don't know where they started about an hour from me, right in my neck of the woods.
Really?
They're actually right in my we were
Poughkeepsie, right?
Poughkeepsie, New York. Yeah. So they literally were competing with me in my territories.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
They started off, not to tell their whole story, but I believe we're at 108 franchises right now.
Incredible.
It's huge.
I want to say
incredible.
Just a couple years ago, there was only 15, and there was 80 to 90 franchises opened in the last 18 months.
Amazing.
That's incredible.
It's cool, for sure.
But I think there's a big need for that, because a lot of guys they don't have all those systems, and it's gonna speed things up. So.
It'll speed things up. That's a perfect way to say it. You still have to put in the work. You still got to hire the right people, right? You got to make the right choices. But I appreciate the plug. I got to do that.
Before you get off that topic, Grant, I'm curious. The audience wants to know where'd you get your start in gutter? Like, bring us back to your infancy in gutter.
Yeah, I'll be 43 years old next week. My birthday's on Wednesday, so I'm getting younger as I grow every day. So 1996, had a really good buddy. His dad owned a sheet metal company with a very small gutter trailer at the time. Back then, you used to have to go to siding worlds and get gutters ran out and strap them to your your truck and all that. He actually had a gutter machine. I started off doing chores around 15, 16 at his house. I was great at those. He was like, my son doesn't want to work for me. You can work for me. And so I started sweeping floors after a couple weeks. He realized I was beyond that. I started working on all the brakes, started bending and breaking metal. And one day the gutter guy had like a liver problem or something. And he's like, you're going to do gutters. I was 16. It was November, West Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, 3.5-story house, 600-700 feet of 5-inch gutter, spike and furl, 2x3 downspouts, heat tape. I probably spent a month there or so.
Yeah.
Jacking crap up, busting, hitting gutters, missing
spikes. How you get your chops, right?
And I never looked back. And I never had I don't think there'll be anybody mad at me for saying this. I never really actually had anyone train me in gutters ever. I never had anybody that I
Same thing.
looked
Self-taught.
up to at a gutter company. I always came in. They were typically schmucks that had more experience than me. I steered clear of them, or I just watched and absorbed what worked. And because my dad is an engineer and that's the way I was brought up, to use logic, when things didn't make sense, I didn't do them. I'm still like that to this day, whether it's with the brand or with any relationship. If things don't make sense, I'm going to bring them up and bring them up immediately. And I want to figure out a solution. That's what I lose sleep over, is when things aren't correct or why we're not doing something a different way.
Right. Awesome.
So that's
I
what
remember when I first started, and this is why a lot of people don't get trained, because the lead guy just doesn't give up any power, doesn't let them do anything.
Right.
I just would do it anyways. He was like, "No, don't spike anything." When he was around the corner, and so then now he's like, "Oh, he could do it." So now they let you do it. But so sometimes you just got to take that knowledge and go for it. Because
I'm with you.
Can teach you.
I remember the early days of being self-taught. You cut yourself to shreds. Your hands are bleeding in every direction. You got geocell hanging off your eyelids. You're like a walking zombie. Like what the hell? You go home. You're like, how did I cut every part of my body somehow? I don't know how I did it.
And both of you gentlemen have gutter pages that a tremendous amount of people are following. And awesome work, Tim, with your gutter mastermind. I support that fully.
Great job.
As well as everything you're doing, Frank. I'm so excited to even be invited to be on this podcast, trying to contain myself. But I think that the industry needs some type of standards too. We see so much bickering back and forth about drip edge and gutter apron and how you do it in Florida versus how you do it in Wisconsin versus the steel they use in Canada.
Yep.
I know firsthand about a lot of that stuff after working in 40 different states. That is what has made me.
By the way, were you in the witness protection program? How the hell did you live in 40 states?
So you work for Nationwide or something like that in Dallas. That's a really massive company, and they can send you out to do schools in Alabama and Kentucky. You do massive commercial projects, right?
Right.
I worked on a lot of like churches and courthouses that have 12-tier stepped gutters that are all handmade. You know about that stuff.
Yeah.
I was doing that stuff when I was a young kid. And so I was hitting the Greyhounds. I could just hit any city with a bundle of cash and call and get a job. I was a hard worker.
Talk about getting a worldly education,
Yeah. And so I think that just creating some regional, I talk about this a little bit in the brand, and this regional training is the epitome of actual success. A lot of these guys from Missouri are asking Tim about how he's doing gutters in Florida. They're asking you in Connecticut, and we're doing things completely different because of the way the homes are built.
Well, so yeah, I think it's two things. It's how the homes are built, the trends in that region of the country, what their style of building is. The other thing is just building materials. The suppliers really control and dictate a lot of how things get done because, they only. I mean, Grant, I don't even want to get into the product, but what we were talking about yesterday, right? Like mind blowing that there wasn't that product in that territory, in your territory. I couldn't even believe it. But there's so many guys that I deal with nationally that never touched 032, never seen copper.
Right.
They just don't have that in their region. So if we're going to do this, where does this go? Where it's going to go for me is standardization and some sort of certification and some sort of higher level of learning that will actually help them go out and market and advertise to the consumer with, so that when the consumer is now shopping for a gutter contractor and they see the certification we've created, they may feel inclined to try to find an installer that has visited us and has earned our certification. I feel like we're in this national rain gutter renaissance right now where everything is sort of moving quickly and people are educating rapidly, and there's this big quest and thirst for knowledge. It's amazing. So let's feed that thirst and let's level up. Grant, I think you just hit the nail on the head. If that's where you were going, where I think there is some sort of certification that needs to happen. And I can't believe we don't have it nationally.
Yeah, I agree. And let me tell you why. there's no certification for gutters. And, I say this as a 25-year gutter guy, and, I love my guys that I train. I mean, we're just doing gutters here, right? That's the simplistic way to look at this. We know that from standing in this room, from our conversations at 25, 10, 18, how many ever years ago we started, how we were doing it then, it's changed, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, once you figure this thing out, how to tab these little corners, how to patina, how to solder, how to just take some metal that has memory and create something out of it, this stuff's really easy to do. But the problem is, and the reason that we need some type of standards in place, is because not everybody's that smart. I see it every day. I call it like I see it. It takes something as simple as cutting steak and botch it. There's guidelines to everything.
Well,
and if you don't know about the guidelines, then someone needs to support them.
We're always, the rain gutter industry is like the redheaded stepchild, right, to the roofing industry. And so, like, SMACNA had those standards put out, sketches and drawings and illustrations of how things should be. I'm sure, Grant, you're well versed. And Tim, I know you did a lot of, architectural, ornate stuff, but, flashing detail and even the profiles of gutters, SMACNA had released that. But that's where they stopped, right? It's just, you could spend money online and find that crap in PDF format, but hands-on training and a real proper manual, step-by-step manual, I think that's where this will evolve for us. We do hands-on for quite a bit, and then we release a manual. You may want to go back and fluff up on what you were taught firsthand with us.
If I'm on this format and I'm wearing these clothes, and this is the company that I work for, I'd want to say, if anybody's interested in getting into something that is already pre-set for you, plug and play,
you guys have been extremely successful. I remember when you guys first came out, it seemed like I heard you had like 50 locations. Now all of a sudden it's 170. It just
you guys don't know where they started about an hour from me, right in my neck of the woods.
Really?
They're actually right in my we're
Poughkeepsie, right?
Poughkeepsie, New York. Yeah. So they literally were competing with me in my territories.
Yeah.
So
wow.
They started off, not to tell their whole story, but I believe we're at 108 franchises right now.
Incredible.
It's huge.
I want to say
incredible.
Just a couple years ago, there was only 15, and there was 80 to 90 franchises opened in the last 18 months.
Amazing.
That's incredible.
It's cool, for sure.
But I think there's a big need for that, because a lot of guys they don't have all those systems, and it's gonna speed things up. So
it'll speed things up. That's a perfect way to say it. You still have to put in the work. You still got to hire the right people, right? You got to make the right choices. But I appreciate the plug. I got to do that. Yeah.
Before you get off that topic, Grant, I'm curious. The audience wants to know, where'd you get your start in gutter? Like, bring us back to your infancy in gutter.
Yeah, I'll be 43 years old next week. My birthday's on Wednesday, so I'm getting younger as I grow every day. So 1996, had a really good buddy. His dad owned a sheet metal company with a very small gutter trailer at the time. And back then, you used to have to go to siding worlds and get gutters ran out and strap them to your truck and all that. He actually had a gutter machine. I started off doing chores around 15, 16 at his house. I was great at those. He was like, my son doesn't want to work for me. You can work for me. And so I started sweeping floors after a couple weeks. He realized I was beyond that. I started working on all the brakes, started bending and breaking metal. And one day the gutter guy had like a liver problem or something. And he's like, you're going to do gutters. I was 16. It was November, West Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. 3.5-story house, 600-700 feet of 5-inch gutter, spike and furl, 2x3 downspouts, heat tape. I probably spent a month there or so.
Yeah.
Jacking crap up, busting, hitting gutters, missing
spikes. How you get your chops, right?
And I never looked back. And I don't think there'll be anybody mad at me for saying this. I never really actually had anyone train me in gutters, ever. I never had anybody that I looked up to at a gutter company. I always came in. They were typically schmucks that had more experience than me. I steered clear of them, or I just watched and absorbed what worked. And because my dad is an engineer, and that's the way I was brought up, to use logic. When things didn't make sense, I didn't do them. I'm still like that to this day, whether it's with the brand or with any relationship. If things don't make sense, I'm going to bring them up and bring them up immediately. And I want to figure out a solution. That's what I lose sleep over, is when things aren't correct or why we're not doing something a different way.
Right. Awesome.
So that's
I
what
remember when I first started, and this is why a lot of people don't get trained, because the lead guy just doesn't give up any power, doesn't let them do anything.
Right.
I just would do it anyways. He was like, "No, don't spike anything." When he was around the corner, and so then now he's like, "Oh, he could do it." So now they let you do it. But so sometimes you just got to take that knowledge and go for it. Because
I'm with you.
Can teach you.
I remember the early days of being self-taught. You cut yourself to shreds. Your hands are bleeding in every direction. You got geocell hanging off your eyelids. You're like a walking zombie. Like what the hell? You go home. You're like, how did I cut every part of my body somehow? I don't know how I did it. And your feet hurt and everything else. But yeah, I mean, that's the only way to learn. And let's face it, you get into a crew and somebody else is trying to teach you. What makes them special? What makes them, who's to say that their methodology is right? And they have no idea how to tell somebody how to do something or how to educate. So half the time it's trial and error.
Can we agree to I think what's kind of lacking in the gutter industry, and both of you gentlemen have gutter pages that a tremendous amount of people are following, and awesome work, Tim, with your gutter mastermind. I support that fully.
Doing a great job.
As well as everything you're doing, Frank. Nice. I'm so excited to even be invited to be on this podcast, trying to contain myself. But I think that the industry needs some type of standards too. We see so much bickering back and forth about drip edge and gutter apron and how you do it in Florida versus how you do it in Wisconsin versus the steel they use in Canada.
Yep.
I know firsthand about a lot of that stuff after working in 40 different states. That is what has made me.
By the way, were you in the witness protection program? How the hell did you live in 40 states?
So you work for Nationwide or something like that in Dallas. That's a really massive company, and they can send you out to do schools in Alabama and Kentucky. You do massive commercial projects, right?
Right.
I worked on a lot of like churches and courthouses that have 12-tier stepped gutters that are all handmade. You know about that stuff.
Yeah.
I was doing that stuff when I was a young kid. And so I was hitting the Greyhounds. I could just hit any city with a bundle of cash and call and get a job.
Man,
I was a hard worker.
Talk about getting a worldly education,
Yeah, and so I think that just creating some regional, I talk about this a little bit in the brand, and this regional training is the epitome of actual success. A lot of these guys from Missouri are asking Tim about how he's doing gutters in Florida. They're asking you in Connecticut, and we're doing things completely different because of the way the homes are built.
The other thing is just building materials. The suppliers really control and dictate a lot of how things get done because, they only, Grant, I don't even want to get into the product, but what we were talking about yesterday, right? Like mind blowing that there wasn't that product in that territory, in your territory. I couldn't even believe it. But there's so many guys that I deal with nationally that never touched 032, never seen copper.
Right.
They just don't have that in their region. So that's actually something we need to consider when we bring them in and we do training, how to make everyone happy, regardless of where they're flying in from, with what we consider standardized, right? Or I think there should be some standardization. In fact, what's the long play with training? Because we're these type of guys. If we're going to do this, we don't know if Grant's going to do it yet, but if we're going to do this, where does this go? Where it's going to go for me is standardization and some sort of certification and some sort of higher level of learning that will actually help them go out and market and advertise to the consumer with, so that when the consumer is now shopping for a gutter contractor and they see the certification we've created, they may feel inclined to try to find an installer that has visited us and has earned our certification. And we're not doing that for our own. Well, we are doing that for our own reasons, but at the same time, everything I try to do is to level up this whole game. I feel like we're in this national rain gutter renaissance right now, where everything is sort of moving quickly and people are educating rapidly, and there's this big quest and thirst for knowledge. It's amazing. So let's feed that thirst and let's level up. Grant, I think you just hit the nail on the head. If that's where you were going, where I think there is some sort of certification that needs to happen, and I can't believe we don't have it nationally.
Yeah, I agree. And let me tell you why there's no certification for gutters. And, I say this as a 25-year gutter guy, and, I love my guys that I train. I mean, we're just doing gutters here, right? That's the simplistic way to look at this. We know that from standing in this room, from our conversations of 25, 10, 18, how many ever years ago we started, how we were doing it then, it's changed, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, once you figure this thing out, how to tab these little corners, how to patina, how to solder, how to just take some metal that has memory and create something out of it, this stuff's really easy to do. But the problem is, and the reason that we need some type of standards in place, is because not everybody's that smart. And I see it every day. I call it like I see it. Take something as simple as cutting steak and botch it. There's guidelines to everything.
Well,
and if you don't know about the guidelines, then someone needs to support them.
We're always, the rain gutter industry is like the redheaded stepchild, right, to the roofing industry. And so, like, SMACNA had those standards put out, sketches and drawings and illustrations of how things should be. I'm sure, Grant, you're well versed. And Tim, I know you did a lot of, architectural ornate stuff, but flashing detail and even the profiles of gutters, SMACNA had released that, but that's where they stopped, right? It's just, you could spend money online and find that crap in PDF format, but hands-on training and a real proper manual, step-by-step manual, I think that's where this will evolve for us. We do hands-on for quite a bit, and then we release a manual. You may want to go back and fluff up on what you were taught firsthand with us 6 months from now. Maybe you don't want to spend the money to come back, but maybe there should be a manual behind it. And then it just rises everything up industry-wide, right? We just bring things to another level. Let's explore that. Where does that take us as a country when it comes to rain gutters? So do people get better rain gutters that are going to last longer? Does that help us get the average dollar per foot up? All the above?
And there's a few ways that this could save people money. I mean, I would say that 80%, and correct me if I'm wrong, Grant, but maybe 80, maybe 90% of the nation's using strip miters or box miters. Do you think that's accurate?
More.
So it's huge. And they're paying, I don't even know what they cost because I didn't buy them. How much is a strip miter?
$15 a piece for a box miter.
How much?
15, 17
Is that, did you say a box miter?
Yeah.
Okay.
6 inch.
And that might be cheap. I think strip miters are close to that. And it might depend on where you're at in the nation too. But to buy that on every corner, if you could save that money, I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's a couple $100 every day. So we can make gutter companies more profitable, but not only more profitable, more skilled. And that's a lot of value. More
profitability.
That means 100%. That you're going to be better than your competition. And if you're better than your competition, you're going to get more money. Someone's going to want that skilled work. And when nobody does it and you're the only company around that does it, that counts for something.
Yeah. So it brings us right back to the oldest argument in the rain gutter space, right? It's hand cut versus box or strip. And, you guys are down south. It's hot as hell here in Connecticut, but we get bad winters. And we'll hand cut if we're doing a custom job. If it's real heavy metal, if it's 040 and I can rivet it, and I know I can really fortify it and make it nice, my coppersmiths will come in and mess with the aluminum even. But generally, we're using box and strip. I mean, it's just, yes, it's faster. Yes, it costs more, Tim. It does. But we find it to be more formidable and less likely to fail. Where a hand cut's going to fail, if it opens, it's failing. It's going to spill. Where a box, you have a little bit of leeway. If the seam opens up a little bit, might hold some water. I don't think, I do have an artistic side to me where I value the hand cut. I do. I just find that I don't think it holds up well in New England, man. I mean, we get ice heaving and ice dams and, 2 feet of snow. It's Wild West up here with the weather.
Spot on with that. Let me answer your other question, just in case we lose Tim. Hand cuts, box miters, strip miters. You called me the preacher or whatever earlier, right?
Yeah. I say that with respect.
Yeah, of course. I'm super blunt, right? But I'm also here not to infringe on anybody's freedoms of how they do things. I've seen it all work, right? There's box miters I put up in 1997 in Detroit, next door to my dad's old house. They're still working just fine. And I wasn't even good at gutters. I'd probably been doing it 6 months. There's hand cuts down in Florida that have went through hurricanes that are still there. Like, to each your own. If you're asking for powerful knowledge of progression of learning gutters, let's just say you're a $2 million a year company. I don't know how I would know anything about those numbers, or a $3 or $4 million company. Let's just say you're a simple company doing $2 million and you're buying strip miters. And you were to, outside of the conversation of material loss in practice, right, in training, tap corners have to be measured perfectly with a little bit, 1/8, 1/16, quarter inch, whatever people want to argue. You're going to lose a little bit in training, but how much are you going to gain in the long run? That's a separate conversation. $2 million company, you stop buying strip miters. Let's say you're 6 months in, your guys are trained up. I mean, you're talking $60,000 to $100,000 savings.
In miters only?
Yeah.
$60,000.
Yeah, probably $60,000. Well, if you're just doing 6 inch, you have to remember I'm in all kinds of different kinds of gutters. I mean, you'd be surprised at a 7-inch strip miter versus a 6-inch or 5-inch strip miter. Quadruple the price.
You know what though? So to your point, like, and that's how these these M&A guys do things. But yeah, when you're juggling a P&L and you're looking at the numbers, where can we trim the fat, right? Where can we get savings? I mean, you're doing maybe not 2 million and maybe a little more, but let's see.
Let's say.
But, I mean, 50 grand's 50 grand, right? 50 grand's a lot of money.
Let's say it's $30,000 to $60,000, right? My 60,000 is probably more off like 3.5 million.
A lot of marketing, right? A lot of marketing.
I see a tremendous amount of waste in strip
Yeah.
To prove, just to say that point, Tim, I was just saying, I'm not here to judge anybody on strip miters, tabs. I've got box miters that are still up in Michigan from when I was 16.
Well, gutters they're good either way. That's my opinion, either way. But my stance on it is that you could be more profitable and you could be more.
Okay, so you guys are speaking the same language. I know that, but I never gave it any. To me, it was like, not that I'm giving a cheat for the installers, but it was like, just get the things up, get them right. I don't want to hear that you fucked up a 40-foot run. Like,
we use strip miters now.
You got 6 inches of play in a box. Just get it done.
We use strip miters exclusively right now. I have one gentleman, Therion. You've seen a lot of my videos with the straw hat. This guy's running my trailer and the box truck. He runs 5, 6, 7 different profiles every week. He's gone exclusively hand cut. He's trying to show his worth. Cool. He's got someone in me that can train him. And so he's going that route. It's absolutely a cheat code to save yourself some money.
Well, all right, so let's tease the instructional. Tim and Grant, I want you both to answer. Do you feel that you can train guys to hand cut on a 2 or 3 day training session where they walk out of here and they're badass?
No, absolutely. I remember, the first 5 years that I did gutters, I used strip miters. So I was with the company the first 5 years, and I would see these miters and I'd be like, oh my God, they're so beautiful. And I was kind of insecure about it. Like, man, I can't do that. These guys must be incredible. But once I learned it in a week. I went to another company, learned it in 1 week. And then I went to another. I didn't stay at that company. They didn't pay enough. But I learned how to miter there. And then there was another company that was paying a lot. They required you to hand miter. Asked me, do you know how to hand miter? Yeah. I didn't tell them I learned it last week.
Right. You know what? You could do a 2 or 3 day on just hand cuts, literally. Miters down, like you said, the downhill runs, all that stuff, the crazy stuff you guys have in Florida.
My opinion is it's easier to install once you know how to do it, because a lot of times with the strip miters and the box miters, you're going up, you're hanging the gutter, you don't know if you're set right because you don't have anything to butt up to. So it's like you're getting down, you're checking it, you're getting back up, you're getting down, you're getting back up, and now you're up and down 3 times when you put a or a hand miter cut on there, it has a tab, and then you butt into the gutter, and you're going up there, and you're like, boom, I got it. I'm right there.
Yeah, it's right
So
where it needs to be.
You fasten it, and 9 out of 10 times you're in the right spot. So you're not going up and down ladder 6-8 times trying to get it correct. It's just boom, it's there, and I feel like they snap together. Like, on the strip miters, sometimes you'll fight in the back trying to get it up, and you kind of got to maneuver it. I just feel like once you're good at these things,
pushing the strip miter up to fill that little void.
Yep, they snap right together, and they end up being faster. It takes a couple more seconds to cut it, but the installation is quicker.
Well, a little PSA out there. Instead of dicking around looking at videos and chit-chatting on Facebook groups, you guys want to learn hand cuts, come down to gutter school and learn from the big boys over here.
And get your hands dirty.
I have another question. It's in a different direction, but George, my guy George, just presented a really good question, and he's interested to hear from you guys, and I'll let both of you talk. He wants to know, and I think it's a phenomenal question, what type of risks have you taken? What was the outcome, good or bad? And how do you reflect on that to give, our audience out there some insight as to, some guys are very risk adverse, I find, right? And here we are, Tim's a Christmas lights guy now, right? In a matter of weeks, and he's full bore. So stuff like that, and I could talk forever. I am certainly not risk adverse. I feel like half the time, I was telling my wife, it's like I feel like I'm at the casino playing 3 hands of blackjack at the same freaking time. And every time I have the ability to double down, I'm doubling down, and I'll have 3 hands all doubled down. Like I'm going hard right now. And so I could talk too, but what do you guys think on that question? I think it's a good one. One at a time.
Who do you want to go first?
I'll answer the last question really quick, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Hand tabs. How many days did you say? 2 or 3 days?
For training or for
hand tabs? Like, how long would it take to train someone?
I think 1 day, to be honest.
One day. Like, could you get better? Of course, 2 or 3 days absolutely would be better. Maybe when you start adding downhills, radiuses, stuff like that.
Right.
Copper half round, box, whatever.
You drill it for 1 day, you're gonna be proficient.
I could teach my son how to hand tab. I think the youngest one is 9 years old. In 1 day, it's a pattern that you trace.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a way to make the pattern. If you can't, there's a couple things you got to be able to do with that pattern. People think you can just put it on a chop saw and be done with it and this and that. There's ways. So yeah, you could train people, and I would highly recommend going hand tabs for all you small guys that don't even know what your margins are. That you should probably be doing hand tabs at the same time you go ahead and figure out what your margins are. There's
fair enough. Thank you for answering that.
Yeah, sorry, Tim. You two are the entrepreneurs. I'll answer last on that.
I don't know what happened to my background. No, I mean, yeah, absolutely. It is gambling, but it's not, because you're gambling on your skills, and so you have a skill level that you start to acquire, and you start to learn things, and you figure out what not to do. So it's not really gambling, because you're getting better. So it's like gambling, real gambling. The house wins 4 out of 5 times. It's set up against you. But in entrepreneurship, as you get better, your odds are getting better at winning. So if you just really dial in on personal development and business skills, it's, you are going to be the house.
What's the takeaway, Tim? Is it get the skills, and then scaling becomes easy? Risk becomes reduced because you've been there, right? You have the experience, right. You have the mileage on the car. You broke the engine in, right? You know what to expect.
Entrepreneurship is one of the only things that your odds get better as you get better.
It's true. I think George wanted a little. You don't have to get too deep, but I think he was looking for a little spice on the sandwich. Where, do you have a story, something something you could share with the audience where? Well, Tim, you're doing it right now. I mean, the lighting, right? It's a some would say a huge leap. It's a completely different direction. It's electrical. It's wiring, right? It's
Well, like
you're still running the roof eaves, and you're in the same
Right.
place. But
like this lighting business is going to take off 20 times faster than my gutter company did when I first started, because there's just so many things I know now that I just didn't know then.
totally agree.
And so like now I got 100% confidence in myself.
I mean, it took me 8 years to hit $1 million with my rain gutter company. 8 years. I was like baffled. Like, why is this
Wow.
taking so long? My drainage business I did in 1 year.
Yeah.
I'll do 2 million this year. My company's 2.5 years old. It's already.
You know how to scale it immediately. You just duplicate the systems.
That's it. You systemize. You learn the process, and then the next thing I choose to touch will scale that just as rapidly. It's just you got to get your chops. I mean, yes, some of this is getting online and listening to guys like us, but a lot of it, guys, is don't be afraid to fall and trip and cut your knee and get a boo-boo. Like you can't learn all the answers and get all the shortcuts in a 55-minute podcast. Like you got to go out there and break a couple teeth and figure it out.
For instance, when I launched Gutter Growth, right, I made a ton of mistakes in the beginning, a ton. And so you keep refining it and get better and get better. And then once you get everything refined, you're only going to learn from failing. You're only going to learn that, hey, that did not work. I'm going to do something different. And then when that scenario comes back again, you know what to do.
You want to do $4 million, $5 million in gutters in 2 to 5 years? I can fix that. But I just definitely stay in my lane. Right. So it's fun to get to know what Tim's about to do with this lighting. I'm fascinated with the drainage side of what you do, Frank, and we're going to continue to talk about that.
Right.
But risk-wise, I take a lot of risk staying in the brand.
So, some guys play it safe. I'm a risk-reward guy. I always try to just dare to do what the others aren't, because I could take the abuse. I could take the beating. I'll be fine. I always heal up. And it makes me feel alive. I think you're wired for it. Some people really are truly wired to be risk adverse. They just can't. The way they handle everything about their life,
Great.
Their finances.
My first airplane ride, I jumped out of.
Ooh, what?
Never been in a plane. Never even been in a plane. I'm like, I'm skydiving today.
That's awesome. That's ridiculous.
Yes, I think. Yeah, you're right. It's just in your blood sometimes.
I think it can be there. I've been pretty risky most of my life, so I think now I'm scaling back a little bit. I have 6 kids.
I mean, let's face it. You do gutters, you're taking a risk with your life.
I say that all the time, right? So I'm just a manager of this company in charge of like everything. So I have a lot of people to talk to, but I constantly remind myself and the owners and my guys that we're partners in this thing. Okay? You might not have a money stake, but you've got a partnership. When you run a truck for me, you get to run your own small business with zero liability except for the risk of your life.
Yeah.
So, I'm always going to bat for the employee, as well as I'm here to make sure no one cuts the throat of the owner. It's a fun, sometimes laborious game that you have to play to remind ownership as well as employees who's actually taking the bigger risk.
Right.
Money can be made again and again and again. Lives can only be lost once. I say that from an installer standpoint. I never forget where I come from.
It's true.
All right, quick question, and then we're going to wrap. We're running long. This has been awesome.
Yeah. You guys hit me with the Baydangle surprise.
Oh, I don't care. You deserve it. Come on, man. You got the shoulders for it. You're fine. So, quick question, and quick answer too. Everybody, just give your 2-sentence answer. As a gutter guy that's looking to increase revenues, what can you do? Simple question, right? But there's a million complexities to it. But what is your 2-sentence answer? If you could shrink it down. Great.
Coaching and retention. Coaching and retention.
Staff retention.
Period. Retention, and the staffing, exactly. And people leave owners. People leave owners. They may leave management too, but typically they leave owners. Management don't keep owners don't keep their management in check. They leave. But so just know that retention is your biggest cost. Period. And then if you don't know how to retain people, get out of the way and get someone that does in place. Don't be scared to pay them. Otherwise, just close up shop. I talk to people all the time. Oh, I can't keep guys. I speak to them for 3-4 hours over a couple of Saturdays. I know right away, man, dude, you're a total you know what. That's why people aren't working for you.
Totally. Tim, what say you?
To increase revenue.
Yeah, just a very broad question, but
Yeah, I mean, to increase revenue, it just depends on their problem. But a lot of times, like a lot of the guys I'm dealing with, they just don't advertise. It's like they got a couple contractors they use, and they don't even have a website. So, I mean, you can start there. I mean, I was always big about scaling. So, like, once you figure out how much a lead costs you, how many leads it takes you to get a job, and how much a job costs, spend more. I mean, when I went from 2 trucks to 3 trucks, every single time I just increased my ad spend. But I already knew how much to increase it because I already knew how much each lead was costing me. But not only how much each lead, it might take you 2 or 3 leads to sell one. I knew how much each job was costing me.
Yep.
And if I have a job that's costing me $100 every time to get a job, but I have profit in it every time, I want to spend more $100 bills.
Great,
Fabulous answer.
Great insight. I totally agree. Yeah. For me, it would be not too far off. 2 quick things: know your numbers, and learn how to brand and market. And to me, that's, if you're not doing that, if you can't establish a trusted brand that people believe in and want to get behind as a customer, you can't grow. So, and then know your numbers, because if you don't know your numbers, you're going to drive the business right into the ground.
Like there's
100%.
I was talking to a guy it was like 2 weeks ago, but he was on Angie's Leads.
Yeah.
And he's thinking that they're cheap leads, but it took so many leads for him to get a sale. Each job was costing him $250.
Brutal.
He had no idea it was costing him $250.
Because he didn't know his numbers, he didn't do the math.
He didn't know his numbers, so he's just sitting here eating through leads, and he's not realizing, I sold a $1,000, $1,500 job, but I'm not making anything.
So if you guys out there listening, did you hear what was just said? And what's interesting is I gave my take, Grant gave his take, Tim gave his take. None of us talked about becoming a better installer, right? You guys are hyper-focused on becoming this crazy installer. It's important. Yes, the work has to get done. But there's guys that do that. If you're not being the business owner and running the business side of it, forget about everything else, okay? That's secondary, maybe even third, right? Nobody talked about that of the 3 of us. So take it for what it's worth. Yes, fly in and see us and learn how to install gutter, but it's not the most important thing, guys. It really isn't. Get away from that. Become somebody you're not now. Learn how to be something you're not now, and that is a savvy business guy. That's what you need to focus on. All right, guys. Look, I could do this all day. I could do this twice a week.
We'll do it more.
Let's keep doing it. I love you guys. I appreciate your time. And let's start building that gutter school, huh? Let's get that together.
Yep.
Grant, love you, buddy.
Love you guys, too.
All right, happy Friday. Have a fantastic weekend. And
I was going to say have a fantastic weekend. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You were
I'll do this anytime. You know that. So, hey, I went and bought a microphone just for you guys. So
awesome.
Awesome.
All right, boys.